Paul Toboni has his first day on the job today, and I'm going to tell you why that the Nationals' new president of baseball operations should have his focus on hiring a GM first before a manager.
You are Locked On Nationals, your daily Washington Nationals podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And yes, I'm your host, Ryan Clary. You can catch me over on Twitter at RyanClary11. And later on in today's program, we'll be discussing game threes that are across baseball today. I know we typically talk Nationals here, but I got to talk about some playoff action, as also a former National made his playoff debut yesterday, and it was pretty impressive. So we'll discuss that later on in the show as well. But in the second segment, Paul Toboni, he has had a lot of things to say about the Washington Nationals, but he thinks that there is a lot of untapped potential on this roster. So who could that be? I've got a couple of guys for you to watch out for, but I'm going to tell you why Paul Toboni, I see almost saying Toboni, but it's Toboni. He needs to focus on hiring the next general manager in town over the next manager. I think that makes most sense for really what this whole process should be about. This is something that is going to be ongoing throughout the rest of the month of October. But right now, Toboni and what he has to really accomplish at this point is to get a correct process. So let's dive into what a correct process looks like. Under the old regime here with Mike Rizzo, he was the president and the GM. He was the process. Obviously, you have your scouts and your data people that you are looking at. But Toboni and what he needs to get done, he is going to be the final decision maker on anything baseball operations wise. If Luis Garcia Jr. is going to be moved to left field, he's going to be the one to check that off. If someone is going to go to the IL or going to go rehab in single A, he's going to be the one that checks that off. But working under him is going to be the day-to-day operations with the general manager. And in my opinion, to get this process jump-started, you should be hiring that general manager before you get to that manager position that will control the roster each and every single day. Having a GM under you just kind of fulfills the process of what he wants to bring here to town. If you look at what the Red Sox have done over the years, they have had, and of course, they actually just promoted their guy to the president of baseball operations, and they will be hiring a GM under him. That is kind of the process where I think Toboni and also Nationals fans want to see. This is exactly what the Nationals need at this point. There needs to be a process. And of course, within that process, it needs to be functional. As far as the process of just kind of how things go and how I want to see them, and quite frankly, how things will be as well, it's going to be at the president position with Toboni. And then it's going to be whoever he hires as the GM. And then under him will be assistant GMs and scouts and data guys. But then there's also going to be the manager. That's kind of the toning pole of this organization, in my opinion. Everything is going to run through Toboni. And when saying that, I feel like Paul Toboni is going to have to hire a GM to get that process started. Right now, what the Nationals need most, in my opinion, is a working process. Is something that works for them. Under Mike Rizzo, it feels as if we lost all structure. There was no wall separating different things from player development to baseball operations to all the different things that you have to do to develop and keep an organization upright. But with this in mind, when you do have that GM and that president structure, you will finally be able to really hit the ground running and get that process started. And oh, by the way, if you hire a GM now, with all the other openings still pretty vacant at this point, then you will be able to finally find that guy for your organization. And if you want to go outside of it, then Yeah, I think that would make perfect sense at this point. But one thing I did want to talk about with DeBartolo, Mike DeBartolo was actually at Paul Toboni's, Paul Toboni's press conference yesterday. Mike DeBartolo was at that. Number one, that's a classy move by someone who was the interim GM here in town. He was in the process to be the president of baseball operations for the Washington Nationals. They obviously went to Toboni. And so DeBartolo was there yesterday, and someone was actually asked a question regarding Mike DeBartolo and where he stands. And Toboni just kind of played it off a little bit and said, hey, we're still looking at the process right now. I've only known him for 70 hours at this point, and it's too early to determine kind of where our next general manager will come from and how this will be. But I thought DeBartolo being there, again, says a lot about where he is as a person, but also where he is in this process. It feels as if right now that the Nationals probably are leaning towards DeBartolo being the GM. That's just me reading the tea leaves there. And also, I will shout out, there are a bunch of other members from the organization who were there yesterday as well, including Nationals pitcher Derek Law. Oddly enough, he was there yesterday for Toboni's press conference. So seeing that with the Nationals, again, it shows me that they obviously respect the guy, number one. But number two, I like the idea at this point of having that carryover from DeBartolo. And if the Nationals do decide to go outside the organization with that hire, I'd be perfectly fine with it. But also, you have to keep in mind this. DeBartolo and Toboni share a lot of the same ideas. They both come from analytical backgrounds. Toboni has been a scout, an amateur scout at times. But DeBartolo and him kind of share that same philosophy of using data every single day to get your best lineup out on paper. And I think that could be beneficial for the Nationals to have that carryover, number one, of DeBartolo knowing these guys and having respect from people within the organization and kind of knowing the ins and outs of what he should be doing each and every single day. So having that general manager role, in my opinion, that should be priority number one. Because right now, the way that I view a manager in today's game, with having the DH in the National League again, manager is a big duty, of course, but I feel as if that this role is like 60% off the field. And what I mean by that is, how can you build a culture, or how can you help build a culture? What are you doing within that clubhouse? Are you bringing camels to spring training to get over that hump? Are you having team pickleball matches on the side in spring training? Are you hosting team dinners on off days? Are you having your starting pitchers go out and your rookies dress as pumpkins for Halloween? Are you doing all the things that really help build a culture? And then it's 40% on the field. And really, that might be generous if we're being honest. The manager position is still valuable, of course. This is someone who is in the clubhouse. He is there each and every single day, meeting with the players, constructing a lineup, and doing all the little things and really coaching up their players. That is a big role in this as well. But I also think what we don't see, the team camaraderie and kind of what they do and the parties that they throw, whatever it is, I think that is most important for what a manager does nowadays. There really is no strategy in baseball anymore. You kind of know what's coming. And also, with that in mind, the only strategy really is the bullpen and what you do with that. I think that the Nationals at this point, you should be targeting your next GM before you hire a manager. Get that structure started and get the process started and hit the ground running. That would be my input on this situation. And honestly, I do believe the Nationals will come to that point. Just who will it be? We don't know at this point in time. But Toboni did mention something that I thought was really interesting in yesterday's press conference. It was one of my takeaways as well. And we didn't really get to it yesterday. But Toboni says that the Nationals have young, exciting players, but he believes that there's another gear that they could tap into. Who could that be? I've got an idea of who they are after this. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer that you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. I love how FanDuel gives me so many ways to play. I built parlays. I've tried the player props, and of course, I've even followed the live lines during games to place a bet in game. And like tonight, I've got a Puka Nacua anytime touchdown score and also a Brian Robinson Jr. touchdown score. Former Commander, and of course, Puka Nacua, the breakout star of 2025. I've got them scoring. I want you to experience the same with our friends over at FanDuel. So what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today and get started. Again, that is FanDuel.com, and download America's #1 sportsbook. Again, that is FanDuel.com. And now we get back into it with the Nationals hiring new president of baseball operations, Paul Toboni. And of course, he said yesterday that the Nationals have young, exciting players, which we know. We can name them: James Wood, Dylan Cruz, Brady House, CJ Abrams, Mackenzie Gore, Luis Garcia Jr., Dalen Lyle. We have got names across the board. We know we have young, exciting talent. But what can you do with that talent? Well, Paul Toboni, he believed yesterday, and again, this is an exact quote from him, and a couple other quotes we'll get to here, but he just kind of went on to say that he believes that the Nationals are, I guess paraphrasing, at this point, but he believed that there's a lot of young talent in this building. So who could that be? And who could he specifically be talking about? My first thought was CJ Abrams. I think we all know that CJ Abrams is probably the second most talented player on this team. Meaning, if you talk about ceiling of what this guy could be, not what he is or what he will be, but what he could be for the Nationals, I think it's James Wood, number one. I think number two is CJ Abrams, even furthermore than Dylan Cruz. CJ can definitely tap into some unproven talent under Toboni, in my opinion. I think CJ Abrams, again, is the second most talented National on this roster. He's got power. He's got speed. He makes some flashy web gem kind of plays over at shortstop where it's kind of like, dude, it's going to click for you eventually, right? Defensively? We don't know at this point. But with some tweaks in his game, and if specifically speaking, you make some tweaks to his defense, and if you get him to make the routine plays, we are talking about a solid premier shortstop in Major League Baseball. As of right now, I'm not convinced of it, but if you do go into this thing thinking, hey, if we clean up some of the small mistakes that, again, Toboni hit on yesterday, he talked about the small mistakes, and he's like, listen, we want to be good at the small things and good at the bad and the big things. And that kind of goes into defense and running the bases and putting bunts down. Like, he talked about this stuff. I feel as if that the guy that he was really kind of talking about getting another gear into them is CJ Abrams. I love the talent that CJ displays here. We have all known that. He's got the potential to be a 25 home run bat. He can steal 40 plus bases a year. He makes solid plays defensively. But it's about doing it consistently. So with that in mind, I feel as if Toboni could really tap into what CJ Abrams has. I think CJ, again, has the ability to hit for power, has the ability to hit for a little average. It also has the ability to be a much better defender. I still feel as if right now that CJ will be moved to second base eventually. I feel as if that's the obvious choice, but right now you've got no one better to play shortstop outside of Nasim Nunez. But if the Nationals can tap into that with CJ at this point and get a better approach offensively and kind of stop these second half struggles that he has had the past two seasons, then I feel as if we will have that premier shortstop that we had in Trey Turner. Someone who, again, very similarly, started really hot offensively and had some really good seasons at the plate, but also lacked defensively. Trey has put himself in a position to be at times one of the better defensive shortstops in the game. He has made a lot of strides there defensively. Why can't CJ do the same thing? Or maybe if you move him over to second base and you like that profile of being an offensive first second baseman who can also play a little defense with the glove and cover a lot of ground over at second base. I feel as if that is something that CJ could do as well. So tapping into talent here, that is really the number one thing. Because one thing that he opened up with, I thought was one of the best quotes from this press conference yesterday. Was number one, I want to build something for the sports world to envy. That was an awesome quote. But here's the better one. He wants to create a scouting and player development monster. What a quote. That is exactly what the Nationals need. Because we've always talked about the owners need to spend money. We know that. Let's put that to the side. But have you seen all the Major League Baseball teams out there right now competing in this? The one constant that they all have, the control of this argument, is that they have all developed talent on their own. The Reds, the Guardians, the Dodgers, the Yankees, the Padres, Cubs, all of them have done it. You have to be able to develop your own talent. So seeing that yesterday and kind of reading the tea leaves, I just feel as if that right now, what the Nationals have to prioritize under Toboni at this point in time is that player development structure and really getting into that. And also, again, as we were saying, tap into what some of these guys really have right now. CJ Abrams, what he does well. Luis Garcia Jr., what he does well. And also a couple other guys that I do want to mention here. Another guy that I think kind of has some untapped potential with the Nationals. This might be surprising to you, but Jacob Young. I think Jacob Young does have untapped potential. And again, under the previous regime, that was never going to break through. Jacob Young is so elite defensively. When I mean elite, I mean like a top 2 defensive center fielder in baseball, maybe behind Pete Crow Armstrong. But honestly, the web gem plays that Jacob Young has made, I'm going to take Jacob Young in that conversation there. I think if Jacob Young could just be a tick below average hitter, like a 690 OPS type of ceiling, that is an everyday player for you. He is so good defensively, and what he has done for this team defensively speaks for itself. And honestly, as we have seen, the Reds, teams like the Yankees and the Red Sox, these are good defensive teams. We're not seeing blowout games. I mean, you're seeing it with the Dodgers because that's the Dodgers. They're mega talented. They're the super team of the 2020s. Like, they're going to put up runs regardless. But if you look across the board, it's like 2-1 ball games. Defense matters. And honestly, the Nationals have just kind of abandoned that over the years. While I've always been, again, hand up, I want my teams to hit for power. I want to have that kind of sexy appeal that you see with the Yankees and you see with the Dodgers. Like, those teams put up runs and it's fun and exciting. But also defense still does matter. And I think if you were to tap into someone like a Jacob Young, you could turn him into a real weapon for this team. Because what he brings is, again, probably as valuable as anybody that anything does offensively for this team. He is a premier elite defender, like one of the best outfielders in baseball kind of guy. If you can tap into that talent the way that the Nationals did back in the mid to late 2010s with Michael A. Taylor, you could find yourself in a really good position with someone like Jacob Young. And last but not least, another guy that I thought of, Brady House. I love Brady House. I think Brady House is great. But let's be honest, his rookie season was really disappointing. You did not see consistent power. I liked what I saw defensively for the most part from him. but he still has untapped potential. And he still has another gear, as Toboni has said, with what he wants to see with these young guys. So I would watch out for Brady House also taking that step up. And again, I think that's kind of expected because he is a former first round pick. He is a top prospect. He's been on our radar for a while. So yeah, I think we do expect him to kick it into a high gear in 2026. But I also believe Toboni was kind of talking about these three guys. Most importantly, CJ Abrams. Secondly, Jacob Young. But third, and definitely not least, Brady House. Watch out for those three guys as we enter 2026 with the Nationals. But thank you all for making Locked On Nats your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcasts. And next, let's talk about some playoff baseball because the Nationals had a former National make his debut yesterday. It went pretty well. We'll talk about that after this. And this episode is brought to you by PrizePicks. And every day we make decisions, but on PrizePicks, being right can actually get you paid. Don't miss the excitement of this football season with PrizePicks, where it's good to be right. Playing PrizePicks is such a fun, simple way to add more excitement to football. You just pick more or less on player projections like Josh Allen's passing yards or Saquon Barkley rushing for a touchdown, and you're in the game. And I love how quick it is. You can make your lineup in under a minute. And my favorite part, well, PrizePicks just added stacks. So if I want to ride with a player, I can select their pass yards, rush yards, and touchdowns all in one lineup. So download the PrizePicks app today and use code LOCKEDONMLB to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONMLB for $50 in lineups after your first $5 lineup. Again, PrizePicks, it's so good to be right. So let me tell you about our friends at Gametime. And there is nothing like catching a baseball game live. The energy, the crowd, the chance to see your team in person, but actually getting tickets, that's the tough part. Queues, login screens, surprise fees, it takes all the fun out of it. And that is why I use Gametime, the app that gives the advantage back to fans. Gametime is fast, easy, and backed by the Gametime guarantee. And you'll always get 100% authentic tickets delivered on time and at the best price. Plus, all fees are included, so the price you see is the price that you pay. And the app is made super simple. I could even see the exact view from my seat before buying because fees are included. Know your total up front with no surprise fees at checkout. And I also love their zone deals too because you can pick the section and Gametime picks the seats and you save big. So download the Gametime app, create an account, and use code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off your first purchase. Terms do apply. Again, that's promo code LOCKEDONMLB for $20 off. Swipe, tap, ticket, go. Download Gametime today. And thank you all for making Locked On Nationals your first listen every single day, as we are free and available wherever you get your podcast. So as we were mentioning, there are a couple of game threes today with the Washington Nationals, but I got to talk about a former National making his debut in the playoffs yesterday. Kyle Finnegan, in his first career postseason appearance for the Detroit Tigers, he went 1 2/3 innings pitched, 0 hits given up, 0 runs, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. Good for Kyle Finnegan. Because the big question for me is, at least for Finnegan in this instance here, is what would he be in October? We did not know. Well, in his first appearance, pitching nearly 2 innings, giving up no hits, and quite frankly, having a clean 2-inning slate there, that was awesome to see from Kyle Finnegan. I love the guy. He's a great guy from what I've heard. And again, former National, you're going to root for him. It's cool to see him yesterday. As we have seen with the Nationals over the years, you see Bryce Harper have big moments in the playoffs. Obviously, you see Juan Soto. He's not in the playoffs anymore thanks to the New York Mets being bad and falling apart down the stretch there. But we saw it with Lane Thomas hitting the grand slam. Bryce Harper, Trey Turner, Kyle Schwarber has had his moments. We have seen a lot of Nationals have a lot of postseason success over the years. So good to see Kyle Finnegan do that. But you've got a couple of game threes today. First and foremost, you have got the Tigers and the Guardians today. And that's going to be an interesting game. The Tigers won game 1. The Guardians took game 2 yesterday, and you've got that at a 3:08 first pitch. But let's talk about the one that I think we all care about here. At least not everyone, but I do. The Red Sox and the Yankees. Game 3 tonight. Winner take all in the Bronx. 8:08 first pitch over on ESPN. That is going to be an electric watch. You've got 2 rookie pitchers, by the way, going head-to-head with Connolly Early, that the Red Sox number 6 prospect right now, I believe, is making his 5th start of his career. And you've got breakout star Cam Schlittler of the New York Yankees, a 7th-round pick for them back in 2022. And something that both these guys have in common, by the way, both these guys were a 5th and a 7th-round pick just a few years ago. And they are pitching in October for the respective teams. I miss those days with the Nationals. Obviously, I miss postseason baseball in general. But I miss having my 5th and my 7th-round picks, having sub-3 ERAs in their rookie season, and breaking out and developing and starting in a winner-take-all game for them. We have not had something like that here with the Nationals. But unfortunately for us, I think Toboni will bring that back. And again, the Nationals are trying to develop into a monster for player development and scouting. So keep an eye out for the Washington Nationals. We'll talk much more about this offseason on tomorrow's show. But until then, have a good one. Go Nats.